Welcome to a special edition of Inside Look. We are continuing our series visiting with the area superintendents that impact North Attleboro and Plainville school children. We are in Franklin at Tri-County Regional Vocational Technical High School with Dr. Karen Maguire, who we sat down with at the same table, probably the same chairs 3 years ago. You were not a doctor at the time. I guess if there was a benefit of COVID, that was it.
Yes, I was. I had to make a decision a few years ago whether that was something I'd pursue. I always wanted to, but then I thought, well, let me try it out, and if I can fit it in the schedule, then I'll do that. And then, alas, COVID, and so it was certainly a time where you couldn't go out. Wasn't a lot going on other than TV, so I completed it then, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So all online, I assume?
So yes, the program that I had signed up for with the University of New England, part of it, where a lot of them have a residency that you have to go 2 weeks out of the year, but with COVID they waived that, so it ended up all being virtual classrooms. Yeah.
Now, why the University of New England?
I liked the program. A friend of mine was in the program as well, so we both thought we would do it together. Mm-hmm.
Now, I had friends that attended the University of New England. Did that used to be St. Michael's College?
I think so,
yeah.
Yeah, it did, yeah. So in Maine, yeah. Portland, Maine is where, this Biddeford is where the campus was that we were out of. But
which I guess it would have had to have been online. Biddeford, Maine,
mm-hmm.
Commuting would not have been very good. So 3 years ago, things are as back to normal as they've been in a long time. In those 3 years, have you picked up anything that maybe you didn't think you'd be encountering? We'll talk about the new high school and the vote in detail later on, but 3 years later, your thoughts?
I think so. I think that with it being a vocational school, and I'd been involved in vocational schools for 25 years, so I know the operation, I know how it ticks, so forth. But we've run into all sorts of problems with delivery of equipment and all of the things that you just didn't think would be an issue. It started to be an issue right after the pandemic, such as supply chain issues, of course, and just that. The teacher shortage is an issue for us. For academic schools, they also have struggles filling classrooms, but for us, we didn't have pools of applicants anyway. It's very difficult to find a welding teacher. There is no welding teacher school, so for us to try to fill the vocational program teacher shortage has been more difficult than some of our academic pieces or special ed pieces. So that I don't think anyone anticipated. Those things I think were not what I was thinking of when I joined Tri-County.
So the 2023-2024 school year has already started. Did you start out the year with a full complement of teachers?
Just about. So we're starting to see kind of coming down on the other end. And the other piece of it is that knowing that we have this as an issue, we put some programs in place last year to try to do some pre-recruiting, where with our advisory board here at Tri-County, among other schools in this area, we started a program called If You Want to Be a Vocational Teacher, right? And we did some online sessions on how to learn about becoming a vocational teacher to people that ordinarily wouldn't have thought of it. So that I think has helped because we got the word out that this is certainly an opportunity to our electricians and plumbers and culinary people and so on. So that's been helpful. We'll continue that this year, and we'll actually even broaden it to more schools in the state because they're all having the same issue.
You mentioned you've been around vocational schools for a while. I graduated in 1977 from Bishop Feion High School, and from what I've seen from the outside looking in, you would know better. Vocational high schools, I don't want to say the mission has changed, but it's certainly expanded.
So yeah, a couple of things have happened, I think, along the way. Where in the 60s, when these schools were built, they were certainly built with the mission in mind of filling workforce needs with people that generally struggled in academic settings. So That was, I think, the mission back in the 60s. But over time, industries changed. You know, there's a lot more to the jobs that we offer and the training programs that we have for students. So that's one piece that's changed, one thing that's grown over the past 50 years. And then the other piece, of course, is the Department of Education. You know, we are a high school. So along with the other 28 regional VOCs, we are high schools. And the challenges that we have are the same as comprehensive schools, to make the curriculum so that all students can access a meaningful and challenging and rigorous curriculum. So that has to be broad, of course, which is different than it was in the 60s and 70s and maybe even the early 80s. And that's really when it changed. But it's now more, I think, visible than it was back then. But there are a lot of things that really have contributed to what the mission is here. And it does have to be a very broad scope.
This may be a silly question for you, but I'm sure there's someone watching it. Tri-County students, do they have to pass the MCAS exam?
Yes, right. So that's a great question, because when MCAS first came about in the late 90s, the vocational community did not want to offer the MCAS exam to students. This community was very fearful that the students would not be able to pass the MCAS test. The students at that time that were coming to us, again, you know, struggled academically for the most part, and were here for hands-on learning. But the Department of Ed said, nope, you're giving a high school diploma like all others. That is the minimum criteria for that. So these schools needed to go back to the drawing board and figure out what to do in order to teach the students the rigorous curriculum to get them to pass MCAS in 10th grade.
I've never understood why a Bishop Feenan, a Xaverian, private or parochial schools, students don't need to pass the MCAS. You would think an education is an education and it would be a measurement tool, but they don't have to.
Right, it's private. They're private. We're public.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
The size of Tri-County, around 1,000 students?
Right, 1,000 students, yeah, and we'll continue with 1,000 students with the new building, project. So 1,000 kids from 11 towns.
Now, there are 11 towns, there are 1,000 students. How is the determination made of which students from which communities will be able to attend? Do you have to turn students away every year?
So yeah, so we do have a waiting list, and we also have a significant waiting list of students from member towns outside of Tri-County, outside of the Tri-County member towns, I should say. The way that the admissions works is it's kind of a little bit of a difficult formula because it has timelines associated with it, but for the most part, if you take all of the 11 towns, the 8th grade student population from all 11 towns and add them together, whatever percentage of those 8th graders North Attleboro has, that percentage is the percentage of 9th grade seats they're entitled to at Tri-County. Same thing for Medfield, same thing for Sherburne, same thing for Franklin. What happens is we have a few towns that don't utilize those allocated seats. So those seats go back into a pool, and once the students from North Attleboro, Franklin, Walpole exceed their seat limit, they are entitled to those extra seats. So it becomes a little confusing because you could go back and do the math and say, well, you know, I can see that Rentham is entitled to 17 seats, but there are 20 kids that go. So how is that? Well, it's because there are other seats that are free, that freed up, I should say, and they would take those seats. Now, if the students apply after March, then outside students, outside like Blackstone or Bellingham, Milford, and so forth, students from those towns would also be entitled to the seats. So it's sort of a in district within a certain time frame, and then out of district within a certain time frame. And to make it more complicated, if you're an out of district student in the vocational school that you're a member of doesn't offer the vocational program that we have, then you're entitled to apply here as well. So for instance, if you're interested in cosmetology, they don't offer that at Blackstone. So students in Blackstone's district would be able to apply to Tri-County.
You know, I remember Attleboro High School just built a new high school, and there were some programs that Attleboro, which has a vocational component and a comprehensive component, there were some students that attended Tri-County because what they were looking for wasn't offered at Attleboro High School at the time.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. But now Attleboro has 17 programs, right? So it's more robust vocational school. Yeah.
Have you seen the new Attleboro High School?
I've seen it. I would like to see it more in depth. Yeah.
Because I think you're looking at what the vocational classrooms will look like if indeed a new Tri-County passes.
Right.
So the new Tri-County, assuming there is a new Tri-County, we'll be optimistic here. The new Tri-County will have 1,000 seats as well?
Yes.
Was there a discussion about expanding to maybe 1,200, 1,400?
Yeah, so that was before I arrived here. But the way that works is the Mass School Building Authority, the MSBA, along with the district, look at the forecast of student enrollment based on the member towns. So you can see in the 11 member towns, all the way to kindergarten, what the enrollment is. And in some years, you can see the enrollment dip. So it wouldn't make sense to expand seats at Tri-County if enrollment is dipping in the member towns, right? Yeah.
So the new high school, where are you in the process now? Because how many steps are there through the MSBA process?
Yeah, so the MSBA pipeline process, they call it, has 8 steps. And we are right in the middle of the schematic design. We were just approved at the August 30th MSBA meeting to move forward with the project. And what that means is that we have 120 days to take it out to the residents and have the residents of our 11 communities decide yes or no on the Tri-County building project. So the vote is on October 24th. We go out to the residents on October 24th. We have a building website, the tricountybuilding.com, which is also linked to our regular school website if people can't find it. All of the information about the project is there. There's a video that explains the needs for the building. And we're now on a campaign going out to the towns and just giving information to the residents about the vote and about the need for the building, about the cost impacts by town. Some towns can figure it out within their budget. Other towns would have to do a debt exclusion for it, but that's up to the individual town. But either way, it would be a 30-year. They would pay it over 30 years, so the significant. It wouldn't be $1 million to at one time. It depends on the community. It's all divided up and spread out over 30 years. Yeah.
Now, at what point does the artist renderings and the architectures, the plans put together? Is that if it's approved, or?
So yes and no. So right now we have preliminary drawings of what it could look like,
Okay.
And that's what we had to send to the MSBA. But that is not. They're not exact, right? So it wouldn't be until it's approved that they go back and go room by room, area by area, and add all of the idiosyncrasies to the programs or the wiring, the code, all of that. Yeah.
Now, the size of the school won't be expanding. How about the offerings that Tri-County has?
So we're sticking with what we offer now.
Which is how many?
16 programs.
Okay.
We just added part of. It's not its own program, but as part of our engineering and our computer information and legal and protective, we added cybersecurity. So we added that piece of it. We're growing out our health careers and medical to add telehealth. And that's a big part of what happened with the pandemic, right? So we're adding that as a piece of it. So we're not adding additional other programs as much as looking at the programs that we have and deciding how we can branch those out and offer more to the kids that are in those programs. Another piece in our carpentry program, which is one of the most popular programs here, we're adding a property management piece to that to be able to help in this area with all of the apartments and condos that have gone up. There's certainly a need for property managers. So we're doing that to be able to stay within the scope of what the MSBA has approved.
North Attleboro is a couple steps behind in
Yeah.
determining whether or not they'll renovate
Yeah.
the existing high school or construct a new high school. A lot of that will depend on the MSBA because I think North Attleboro is still paying for the renovations to the science wing of the existing high school. So it's going to be a tough sell to say, well, you gave us money for one wing of the high school. We don't want this high school anymore. Can't use this high school anymore. That's going to be a tough sell, that's for sure.
So that's kind of the problem with all of our schools, right? They're all about the same age, and over time you think, well, we can renovate this. It makes sense to renovate this. We can get a grant to add that. We have to fix this roof. These are all big decisions that you're put in a position that you have to do. And then the other piece that happens to folks is that you apply to the MSBA to be part of the grant program, and then you're turned down. And this goes on, for Tri-County. 2015 was the first time that they tried, because they knew that things needed to be addressed. But you get turned down, so then you still have to address them. But now we're in 2023, and you get invited in, but you've spent money. It's like putting money in a bad car, right? You're like, well, I'll throw those tires on and I'll do the brakes, but that's all I'm doing, right? Until the fuel pump goes, and then you say, well, I'm going to just go ahead and. At what point do you stop, right? And then the point where you stop is when the MSBA finally invites you in. Yeah.
You obviously know a lot more about cars than I do. I would have never come up with fuel pump. The school. Let's talk about the need for a new school. Someone watching this, they might have driven by, they might have been attended an event here at Tri-County. Mm-hmm. Boy, the school looks fine.
Yeah.
Why do you need a new building? Why do you need a new facility?
Yeah, there's no question that the facilities department here does a terrific job. They do. And the problem is the bones of the building are 50 years old. Tri-County is used from 7 o'clock in the morning until 10 o'clock at night. We have adult ed programs. We have afternoon programs. It's just the wear and tear on a 50-year-old structure. It's at the point where we're putting money into it, it just doesn't make sense. We can't maintain a facility this old. The issues with the code is another thing. We have no fire suppression system in this building. The ADA compliance piece is an issue. The doorways aren't wide enough. The ramp system is too pitched. There are a lot of things like that. The electrical code, the plumbing code, and so forth. We have pipes breaking under. When they built this school, they built everything encapsulated in the concrete. You can see the walls around you, and the floors are all concrete covered with carpet, but under those are the pipes. So in order to get to the pipes, you have to jackhammer up the floor. Then you get to the pipe, and you find that the pipe, which is a cast iron pipe, is pitched the wrong way, so now because over time it's settled, it just goes on and on. The estimate that they had 2019, the estimate to just bring the building to code was $165 million just to bring the building to code, and that doesn't address educational space. And then you still have a 50-year-old building. So that's where the thought really went into, what are we going to do here, right?
Well, one of the things I did not realize, and actually, when we were waiting out in the lobby, I was looking around and. The old Attleboro High School, the culinary arts program, and the restaurant that's open to the public, which is an important component for the students to deal with the public, was in the middle of the high school. The new high school actually has a wing that is sealed off. You have graphic arts, printing is there, actually a banking program, cosmetology. There's one other, and then of course the restaurant. Here at Tri-County, there is a restaurant that's open to the public, but it's in the middle of the building, isn't it?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. The same with cosmetology. Graphics is upstairs. Our programs that we rely on the public to help run the program and have the kids have the real world experience in it are all in the middle of everything else, right? So it's, again, in 1973 when the building was built, that was a great idea, but in 2023, from a school safety standpoint, that is not a good idea. So a new building would have the same thing, a different side for the public. Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about October 24th. You mentioned you have some presentations to make between now and then. I take it you're going to be out a lot at night?
Yes.
So do you actually do a presentation in each of the 11 communities?
So I've already presented to the select boards and finance committees and done that whole route over the last couple of years. What we're doing now are smaller presentations for community groups. Town Dems in a number of the towns we've done. We have some senior center presentations that we have scheduled. I have some interviews like this with cable companies that we have. We have drop-in coffee hours that we're scheduling, and then the community events. This weekend, we were supposed to be at Medway Farm Fest and at Bogstock and Millis. Bogstock's been postponed because of the hurricane until Sunday, and the Millis event has been postponed until the 29th. But each weekend we're out at, last week we were in Rentham, from Rentham Day, and we'll continue to do that to try to get the information out as best as we can for the voters.
And when you took this job 3 years ago, you knew that was on the horizon, right?
I knew that's why that superintendent was leaving. Yes, yeah.
The election, at least for some communities, is going to be different than maybe what voters are used to in the past. Polls aren't opening at 7 in the morning. They're not opening at 8 in the morning. Very specific rules. Neither one of us understand why, but go through. Polls can only be open for 8 hours.
Right. But let me go back to the other piece about the community events. I just wanted to just point out that when I was hired here 2 years ago, the thought was that this would be a renovation. The school committee was very clear about that this was going to be a renovation project and not a rebuild. It wasn't until we went through the MSBA process with the feasibility study, similar to what North Attleboro is doing, and they said it doesn't make economic sense to remodel at the same amount, in essence, as a new building would cost. So that's 3 years ago when I was hired, I didn't know that part. I thought we would be doing a remodel.
So that was a curveball.
That was a curveball. Yes. But as far as the vote, the state is, if you look at Tri-County's 11 communities as one great big town, that's the way the vote happens. That the 11 communities of Tri-County on the same day at the same time will have the opportunity to vote on the project. And that's dictated by state law. It is, the state law, 16N is what, on Chapter 70 is what we fall under. The state law states that the election will be open for 4 to 8 hours, which is different than what it would be if it were a town or state election or federal election. 4 to 8 hours, yeah. So the town clerks, after meeting with them a few times, they leaned towards the longer piece, the 8 hours, and decided from 12 until 8 on the 24th of October.
Now, normally in a town election or in a state election, let's go state or federal election. A town tallies the votes. They send them to the Secretary of State. We see the results on Channel 5, 28% of precincts reporting, all of that. North Attleboro will vote. Plainville will vote. Franklin will vote. Voters in that community will know we voted yes overall, or we voted no overall. Tri-County, this building will be where all the votes are tabulated and there'll be a running tally?
Yeah, so it's an interesting thing. We've yet to really lay out exactly what that night will look like. The polls close at 8, so but it is something that I think we'll put something together for, and I'll let you know about that. But each clerk will call into our business manager and let them know what their total is in their precincts, and then we total them, and that's the vote.
And very important to note, and you mentioned it, it's a popular vote. This isn't like the presidential election where Franklin has so many electoral votes, and it's a popular vote.
That's right.
So a town like Franklin, for example, could vote overwhelmingly no but it passes, their residents are on the hook for their share.
Right. So Tri-County is owned by all 11, right? So it is, and it is by that statute. All 11 towns, however many people come out to vote, as a total.
So let's say it passes. North Attleboro is on the hook for $3 million a year, say. If the enrollment percentages change over those 30 years, does the amount they owe per year change as well?
The enrollment dictates how the towns would pay their portion. So and it is by student. So there are shifts, but there is something right now. There is a bit of legislation that's out there right now that is looking at for regional schools a 5-year average, and basically what it would do is like the last 5 years would be the price for the next 5 years, so that towns can budget for that. Some already have it in their agreements, others don't, but the state is looking at making it that's the way that the calculation would be, which would help people, I think, know and not have the wild swings based on enrollment. Yeah.
How about the funding formula for building vocational technical high schools?
Yeah.
I've heard that is a possibility that it could change in the MSBA and the state kick in a little bit more.
Yeah. So right now we have up to an $82 million grant from the MSBA to help offset the price of this project. Representative Scanlon, from North Attleboro, and Senator Feeney, of course, from the area as well, have both worked on legislation to really have the state look at the way they fund vocational school building projects. Right now, this school is reimbursed at the same rate as a comprehensive school, even though it costs a lot more to build.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Right. So in fact, this Monday, the Education Committee is considering one of Representative Scanlon's bills that talks about the organization of the MSBA and how the funding is allocated. So what we're talking about right now, as far as the price of Tri-County, is the worst of the worst of it.
Yeah.
We are trying to chip away at it as best as we can, and we will continue to do so. But Tri-County is not the only school that's faced with this right now. There are 10 schools in the MSBA pipeline that are vocational schools, which impact over 100 communities. So those 100 communities are all talking about the same thing.
Yeah, which would certainly be good for the
Yeah.
taxpayers. Their money will be put to use regardless, but because the state taxes are their money as well, but more people throwing into the pie would certainly be good.
That's right. And then of course, there's federal dollars that the state could utilize.
Yeah,
there's a lot that they could do. These schools were built on state and federal money grants when they were first built 50 years ago. So that's been something we've talked about for a couple of years that we'll continue to do.
And as we started this conversation, 50 years ago, vocational schools operated much differently than they do now.
Right. Yeah. So, but we will continue to train the students that fill the industry needs of this area. We will continue with the adult ed people that come for retraining and help to make our economy grow here. That's what our mission is, and we'll continue to do that.
Thank you so much. I know with all of this going on, you're very busy, but to be able to set a half hour aside for us, I truly appreciate it.
I appreciate it
and
too.
I hope to see you on October 24th.
All right, very good. Yeah, we'll see what that looks like. Okay.
Dr. Karen Maguire, Superintendent of Schools for the Tri-County Regional School District.
I was trying to, there we go.
Thank you so much. I didn't mean to stop you there. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget, October 24th. And if you have any questions, attend one of those information sessions. And the North Attleboro Plainville information sessions will, of course, be recorded on North TV, and we'll be showing them numerous times leading up to the 24th. Thanks again.